Aida, how are you doing today?
I am so excited because the sun has come up.
Well, you're like me, because that's when I write, is when the sun is rising. I do my journal every single morning when the sun is rising.
Ah, how beautiful. Wow, that's inspiring. Well, but you know that your brain waves are at like the theta stage, which is like the most creative that you can be at that time when you wake up.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I'm blessed with the opportunity to talk with a lot of authors who say, no, my writing time is 10 p.m. until 2 a.m. And I'm going, oh, my God, what is up with you?
Yeah. No, it's actually a magical time. That's actually when my best ideas come.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. And it comes to as a single thought, and the question is how are you going to connect that? In fact, that takes me to your book. The way that it is printed, you've got to explain to me. To me, it looks like a book of poetry. Is it?
It is. It's a book of poems, but it's a story. It's a novel, a traditional story that in 300 pages. But you have to read them sequentially.
Yes.
The poems start from beginning to end, and that's how you understand the story. It's not like a typical book of poetry. You can flip to any page and just read the poem by itself. But these are all sequential, so it's important that you read from beginning to end. And though it's National Poetry Month, so we're celebrating that, of course, and our pub date. Today is the first day that Ultraviolet is available in stores, but poetry, it allows us this really beautiful entry into the human heart. And that's what our former poet laureate, Billy Collins, says. Poetry is a history of the human heart. And this story about a little boy who falls in love for the very first time and gets heartbroken is really a story of the interior, right? It's a story of the inside of this little boy's feelings. And so it just made a very natural way to express this story.
The way that I was able to identify with the poetry was the fact that my last book was 53 pieces of poetry that happened to tell a story about John Lennon. And so that's why when I first opened this book, I went, oh my God.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. I got to read that.
You know, it's going to take a poet to understand it, though, because it's not written in what I call street speak. I mean, it's written because the way when I had the story and I thought John Lennon wouldn't just sit there and write a book like this. John Lennon would do it through his poetry. Yes,
and songwriting, right? There's such a relationship between a book and verse and poetry and music. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like the word verse is, you hear, you ask what the verse is in a song, and it's the same thing. Yeah.
So true. There's a very relatable scene in here, and I think that every young boy goes through this. It's Pops always telling Elio to man up, and I could so hear my father's voice when those things were taking place.
Oh, I know. It's one of the more, I mean, although it's a very common thing, it's also really one of the more painful things.
Yeah.
Right? Because boys in our patriarchal system have not been given the opportunity to feel the expansive range of feelings that we have as humans. And so they have to suck it up. They can't cry. They can't express their emotions, and the only expression of emotion that is acceptable is violence. Yeah. Right? We expect violence from boys, and so, and we see it in our homes. We see it on the streets, on the world stage, and the wars and genocides we're seeing. That's all unexpressed, unhealed wounds playing themselves out. And so while it's very typical, it's also very hard and sad to know that that's what we keep doing to our boys. They're victims in as much as girls and women are victims of patriarchy.
Yeah. Another thing that you cover here that I didn't have growing up when I would go to the library is that you cover puberty for a young man. And the thing is that we don't have books like this, and it was one of those subjects we didn't talk about. And yet the girls had Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It was always one of those, well, where's my book where I can understand what I'm going through? And so this book right here is so unbelievable in sharing that journey.
Yes. Actually, you know what? Judy Blume did write a book called Then Again, Maybe I Won't.
Really?
And it was the kind of puberty. Yeah. And she talks about all of the taboo subjects, the woodies, the nocturnal emissions, but it didn't get as much acclaim, I would say, as Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Yeah. But both were banned. My book, The Moon Within, has been banned. Wow. It's very interesting to me how speaking about puberty is something that is shameful, right? Yeah. When it's the most natural thing and the thing that all of us have to experience. And I try to approach this with a lot of humor because puberty is hilarious. And in fact, that question that you said, when is there going to be a book about me, right? That's exactly what my son asked me and his best friend after I'd written The Moon Within. They said, we like this book a lot, but like, when are you going to write The Sun Within? And I was like, oh my goodness. And you're right. When I did research, I went to look for books that reflected this reality for boys. It was only Then Again, Maybe I Won't by Judy Blume and maybe another. But wow. Other than that, there were hardly any. And that's a shame. And we're just trying to rewrite that with Ultraviolet. Well,
the book cover, I know we're not supposed to judge a book by its book cover, but I'll tell you what, I love this one because it looks like everybody. In other words, anybody can look at this photo, this front cover and go, that's me, or that's my son, that's my grandson. I mean, I just see so much innocent in this child's eyes.
Oh, I know. That cover was created by Zeke Pena, and absolutely, there's this innocence and this like curiousness and awkwardness. It's all mixed into that little boy in this curly top head. Yep. Like all the kids are like super wearing right now. The curls on the head and that little dimple. Yeah. It's great. And sweet chubby cheeks, right? Like right in that in between space.
Wow. Well, you've got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here.
You be brilliant today, okay?
Okay, I will. Thank you.